Hi, I'm Chanel, and this is Crap Now What? I am an untaxed wealth strategist. So, why in the world would I bring to you a topic like this in a podcast? And why should you listen to it? Well, I'm going to be bringing ideas each week in this format, this podcast, that tie together wealth strategies from a financial standpoint, as well as what I would probably call very unique, untraditional ways at looking at the world from experience, from things I've seen with clients, and share them with you because I feel very strongly that wealth is measured in many different ways. And we're going to talk about how these ways are measured and how they relate to you. So if this is the first time you stumbled on this podcast, I guarantee you're going to hear something that's a little bit different than you've heard before, or at least presented in a different way than you've heard it. If you are one of the thousands of people I've worked with over the years and you already kind of know who I am, I still think you're going to learn a little bit more about how I weave and how I think and how I care about not just your finances, but also I care about you. So let's go ahead and get into today's topic. We're going to talk about wealth. What is wealth? Most people, when they start to think about wealth, they think about red carpets, yachts, flying off to different parts of the world, the uber rich, the Bezos, the Gates, some of the politicians that we know of that have real estate and assets. Maybe even somebody that we've met that has maybe a country club life that's a little bit more realistic maybe than that Uber lifestyle. But wealth is usually measured completely by the assets that we have, the things that we own, how we live our life, and how we live and have a lifestyle. And that is oftentimes also determined by how do people relate to us when they call us wealthy because we have those things, or when we see someone who has those things. But I'm going to stretch your idea of wealth today into adding things, love, and things that we enjoy, because not everybody's going to be wealthy. We just know that. Actually, from a net worth standpoint, I just had this statistic come across my desk yesterday in a team meeting. The idea that the 50th percentile, that means half of the Americans, have a net worth of $192,000. If you look at that, for someone in their 20s or 30s, that's like, wow, 192,000 net worth, not including the assets of a home equity. This would be cash, stocks, bonds, 401ks, other retirement funds, a net worth of 192,000. Sounds like a big number to some. If you start to think about life and potentially retiring, that's a very low number. So there's not a lot of people that are actually what we would call wealthy on the books. But there are other ways to live that one life that we have as a wealthy person. I've talked about this in several different episodes of this podcast, the idea of having a strong foundation, having strong financial acumen, putting yourself in a good spot. If you want more details on that, please go back to some previous episodes. However, ways to be wealthy. I was driving by the local baseball stadium, local farm team, an offshoot of course, of a major league team. And I saw a lady that probably is somewhere in her 70s who was carrying her chair back to the parking lot, and she had gone to the game. It was an afternoon. It was probably about 2 o'clock in the afternoon game. I would presume she's retired or partially retired, seemed to be in pretty good shape, and she clearly was treating herself to the game. I was kind of envious I thought, what a lovely idea. What a lovely day to be outside. She actually had a little bit of a tan. She's probably going to games pretty regularly. And when I was preparing this topic, I thought of her because isn't that another way to measure wealth? If you're able to go and enjoy something that you're passionate about. Now, tickets to something like this are pretty reasonable. And yet she's finding joy, I'm presuming, because she seemed very happy. I was, like I said, envious, finding joy in maybe what I would call one of the little things, something that people would overlook if a yacht was to go by in the lake over her shoulder. They would say that person is wealthy because they have a yacht. There's a heliport on that yacht. And this woman isn't wealthy. I beg to differ. If you're in your 50s, especially, this is a time where a lot of people are starting to look at what do I have? What have I accumulated? How am I going to live the life that I have ahead? Many people still have another 30 or 40 years ahead of them. However, we've been pre-wired to retire at 65. Maybe some people are starting to talk about working until they're 70 because they're not sure what they're going to do anyway, and they're going to still have what they consider to be probably a decent runway of retirement. Wherever you're at on that spectrum, wherever your parents are at on the spectrum of being ready or thinking about retiring, or knowing that, as I call it, the runway is getting a little bit shorter for accumulating wealth, you need to start to consider where you might end up with Social Security and Social Security income. That's a whole topic that I touch on in different episodes and different slices. And then I also host workshops, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But Social Security appears to be going to stay around. There's going to be that opportunity for people to draw down from Social Security that didn't expect to be able to. So becoming knowledgeable of what that figure is going to look like. And it's not necessarily retiring at 65. You can draw some Social Security, but you're not fully 100% until you're at 67. And then there are bonuses if you wait longer. So that is a factor to start to consider when we are starting to look at what wealth can look like and how we're going to live our life in a wealthy lifestyle. Along those same lines, there's typically and are typically different sacrifices that have been made in life. We've often spent our life being unwealthy on the books, and at times maybe going through some rough times too. It all depends on how you measure it. As we go through the stages of life and we have children and we build a family, we have a house and we build a family inside that house, and then maybe move on to another house. Those are different markers of the ability to measure ourselves as wealthy in different ways. I touched on that a little bit in a previous podcast about the idea of making sacrifices. I recently came across another thought about the sacrifices, and this one is, would you rather sacrifice one thing in order to have everything, or would you rather sacrifice everything just to have that one thing? Now, in this particular case, it was used in terms of where people can get into trouble with addiction and different things along those lines. However, this plays very true when it comes to our finances. Would you rather sacrifice XYZ, XYZ, XYZ in order to have everything? Or would you rather have everything and have everything now and early and maybe not have things in the future. So when it comes to talking about wealth, I'm going to put this out on you. Hopefully, a few of you will at least step up and share with me how you feel wealthy, ways that you are thankful, and how you appreciate and love life. And possibly how you would even love to learn more about how to have and live a wealthy lifestyle in the future. Because with good and careful planning, that desire to live the vision that you have for yourself for retirement, for what wealthy means to you, can actually happen. We know there are countless books out there. Countless books. There are countless podcasts out there to help flex your mind, flex your spirit, build you up, get you excited for life, keep you on track so that it's not always a reset after New Year's Eve. And or like dieting where we're going and we do good for 2 weeks and then fall off, or working out or anything. There are countless resources. And the reason there are so many different resources out there is because everybody is unique. They are unique in the way that they are wired. They're unique in their set of experiences. And there are experts out there that have been there, done that, have ways to try to help. So I will always encourage you to be a student of life, a student of life that is looking for the path that best suits, as well as continuing to evaluate where and how you would define wealth. Because we know we're not all going to be Bill Gates, Bezos, and some of us don't even want to. We want to be that lady who's going to the ball games, sitting out and getting a tan, enjoying her afternoon, and that gives us wealth. We all know people who have struggled in life, maybe worked 2, 3 jobs, but they have found ways to enjoy their life and make the most of it. And that is the purpose of today's podcast, is to talk about redefining what wealth is and helping to realize your dreams. That's one of the things that if you were to book a call and a visit with me, that I would ask you first off, how does retirement look to you? What do you hope to be able to do? What have you accomplished so far? What things have you done? Because everybody needs a pat on the back for the money that they've put away and for the things that they've already attempted to do, what they've accumulated, maybe the real estate that they have, the plan that they've put together, whether it's with a planner or independently. A pat on the back for where you've come from is always valuable. Always appreciate, whether it was a bumpy road, a smooth road, always appreciate that every day that you make your choices is another day that you're closer to where you're supposed to be and where you want to be. So what I want you to do is to make a plan and continue to work it. We all are bad about this in some way, shape, or form. Starting, like I said, exercise, diet, starting again at the new year, starting fresh on a Monday. This is a constant challenge, but if you mimic somebody that you totally admire, then you have a roadmap, maybe a rabbit up ahead of you that you can follow, someone that you know and think is living a happy lifestyle, and you mimic that. That is invaluable. Be curious. I also want you to be curious. Read books. Like I said, be a student of life. I've mentioned in previous podcasts the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book. That one is a very good book about life choices and measuring life and leveraging knowledge in the financial world. Also, look to define your household. No matter what the mix is of your household, no matter what your background is within the household, look to define it financially in a way that is different, better than the generation ahead of you, and as a leader for the generation and generations that are to come. There's nothing more powerful than having a strong role model. If you didn't have a strong role model, then utilizing that information to have and become a better role model for the future generations that are coming. That is what I want to impart on you. Count yourself wealthy every day in one way or another. Treat yourself regularly with little things so you don't feel like you're without, but play the long game. Play the long game, and that is when one day you'll look back and you'll realize that you too live a wealthy lifestyle. If you like some of the tips, you'll see that some of my podcasts are longer than others and some are a little bit shorter, but that's okay because the topics are very well defined. But if you like what I have to say, please subscribe, please share. There's something typically in each one of these topics for every generation. It ties together the idea of wealth and wealth strategies. We don't always get into the numbers where we talk about untaxing it, but that is ultimately the goal in the long run. If you like these topics, please share. I also have a series of workshops that I host. If you happen to be in the Wichita area, the next one that is scheduled is actually specific about retirement and Social Security. That one will be held at the Advanced Learning Library later on this month. Well, we're going to be in June here soon. In June, on the 24th and 25th. Next up is Women in Wealth. And that one will be hosted at a location near that Bentonville, Arkansas area. My team is working on the exact details, but we are aiming for mid-July. Typically, my workshops are 2 days, a Monday night and a Tuesday night, so you have your choice of when to come. Also, workshops on demand are in development as well. Those can be anywhere in the country. So if you're picking up on this in any of the states that are outside of the Midwest, there are still resources. If you have a desire to have me included in any of your events, either virtually or in person, I'm more than happy to share some of these topics. I'm very excited about them. And many of the things that we're talking about in this podcast will also be supporting those. Always go to goblazingstar.com for more details, as well as you're able to go ahead and do a search on anything Blazing Star strategies, learn more about any of these topics. I'm constantly sharing a new version, a little bit of a twist, a little bit more details, and I'm excited that you were here. Thank you too to my team. I missed doing that on the last video, my last podcast, but they're very important as well. I have Michaela and Hans from Rins Marketing, as well as Caleb from Sal Media. These guys know exactly what they're doing and they help keep me going. And I just enjoy their detail and how they continue to help me look the best I possibly can. Have a great day and thanks for joining.